Hello, people. Hey, April, I didn't know if you knew, but you have some red in your hair.
It's pink.
Oh, it's pink? I thought, maybe some Cersei Junior High. You've got some spirit going on. You need a black going right above it. And then you got the, I guess the lighting, the way it comes through in the camera, it almost looks like, the red of the flag right above your head.
No, it's pink. I'm a breast cancer survivor, so I wanted my pink in my hair for October.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
But it's still not a bad thing to show your support and your love of Cersei, I guess. I can't do that. I guess put a little crayon or something.
Yeah. We put a tattoo up there.
That's permanent. I'm not about to do anything like that. The young people that get all the tattoos and the sleeves and all that kind of stuff, eventually we grow up.
Yes.
And then we get old and the skin starts to sag and stuff like that. And then, that the big muscle thing, I don't know, doesn't look in your 70s and 80s. That's just my opinion, though. That's just my opinion. All right, I'm gonna grab a hunk of meat here. The way Ariel is sitting right now, whatever's on her wall, looks like
Looks like she has a crown.
like a little hat going on just right there.
It's raining in Cersei.
Is it? It's just humid here in Morrilton.
Same here in Sherwood.
Raining or humid?
Humid.
It's pouring now. I got my back door open so the dogs could go in and out. And now they're all, well, Susie's still outside. She's a lab. She's having fun.
All right. Okay. All right. Let me move cameras here. Have y'all picked up all your product?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, everybody? Good. All right. Looky there. So what we're looking at here, kinda. Yeah, there you go. Turn it around the other way. Strip. This is the strip loin. Okay. It comes under so many different names, but from a retail standpoint, the number one name for this when we cut it into steaks, and statistically, the most popular, the most common retail cut of meat used in the food service industry. That is overall, as you were, not the entire food service industry. We're going to take the fast food hamburgers out of that statistic, but New York strips. So a New York strip steak, strip loin steak, strip loin, all mean the same thing. Okay. There is maybe a couple of you got a section that has a little bit of bone in it. Did any of y'all get bone? Have you taken it out of the package yet, or felt around and noticed any bone you don't know yet?
I haven't noticed anything yet.
I haven't either.
Okay, I get intentionally, I asked for this one. And so where my finger is right here, all right here, this is one section of rib. So there's one rib here. This is back. further back on the cow than where the ribeye would be, and a little above. So this is kind of in between ribeye and sirloin. This is in the middle. We want to look for, this is a good time to talk about marbling. This is a little bit of a firmer steak when you cook it than a ribeye, but it is not nearly as tight or as firm or as dense as a sirloin. Both flavorful, right? But these white, I think we all are aware, this is the marbling. And when you see something like a Wagyu that's just been babied, the cow has just been babied and fed a certain way to get more and more, it almost looks like the meat is completely loaded with little spider webs of white marbling. The more marbling there is, the more flavorful that steak will be, regardless of the cut. Okay. So if you go to the beef section, if you go to the meat market and you're looking for your steaks, don't discount this marbling. Look for as much of that as you can find on the grill, on a broiler, on a iron skillet, in the pan. This all renders away. This big thick plug of fat obviously does not render away. Some of it stays really hard and dense. We'll want to trim some of that off. And I'm actually going to use some of this fat for ground beef. I'll talk about that in a minute. The first thing I want to do, the first thing that all of you want to do with the section of strip loin, you have about 25% of a whole strip loin. Just like the ribeye, the rib roasts, this is very, very expensive. So you got a section, but if it means anything to you, kind of that this week, especially the benefit of being in the online class is you have this section at home for you. You've got a whole beef tenderloin for you, and the in-person classes, each person cut a few steaks, and those steaks are vacuum sealed and they go in the freezer to be used in food 3 and food 4. Every single person trimmed and cut down, fabricated a whole beef tenderloin, the 2 meat and seafood classes yesterday, but they didn't get to keep it, take it home. So you guys, nanny, nanny, boo, boo. Right?
I have no problem with that.
Well,
Thank you.
I don't either. So I'm feeling for the bone, and I'm using my my paring knife just because. I get underneath it, pull up just a little bit, and then follow the bone all the way up. There we go. And cut this out. I do know, because I was asked about it as Zach was cutting these and vacuum sealing them. So I know that a number of you have at least one bone in your strip. I don't think anybody has more than one, but you want to cut that out. And if you're making like just a little saucepan of beef stock, I would save this and use this for beef stock. If you don't want to make just a little bitty portion of beef stock, but you have a dog, roast this just for some added flavor, and give that to your dog. Delicious, wonderful. How many of you have dogs? Any dog people? I know April. I've seen April's dog before. Dog will love you for it. We're going to put this off to the side. And then from here, all you're going to do really, people, is just cut out your steaks. Now, I'm okay with you leaving that whole plug of fat on. And then you can either keep it if you like to eat the fat, or you can trim it off later. Do whatever you want to. If you want to go ahead and trim it off now, if that's really a lot, then whether you use a paring knife or you use your boning knife or you use your chef knife, we're going to take off just maybe some of it. And we start at a corner and then start pulling it back and score a little bit and pull. We want to do a little bit at a time to make sure you don't cut off too much. You don't cut off any meat. Put that in my little side bowl. I'm going to keep just a little bit on. If you guys are survivalist type, you can cook this down, render it like pork fat. When you render pork, it's lard. When you do this in layman's terms, when you do this with beef, that clean rendered beef fat is beef tallow. And your lard, you want to use for the masa for your tamales. You want to use in your biscuits. Lard you want to use if you make homemade tortillas. Beef tallow, you can deep fry with it if you have enough of it. I'm going to use it in some beef grind for ground beef. So left fat on, but look at what I have now. So it's just a little bit. I still have quite a bit right here, but that's only going to go in so far. It's only a few steaks. And so I'm going to use my my chef knife and cut off, kind of whatever you like. We'll go about 1.5 inches. All there is to it. Looky there at that. Aren't y'all hungry?
Yes.
No, not really.
I'm not a big fan of the New York strip steaks. I like a ribeye steak better.
Okay. What do you not like about the strip?
The ones I've had aren't as flavorful or as tender as a ribeye is.
Okay. So tender may really be a matter of how it's handled. Okay. So y'all give this a try. Who said that a minute ago? I was looking over it. Was that April? Was that you?
Yes.
Okay. So flavor really is going to come first and foremost from this marbling. Okay. If the ones you've gotten in the past, if your mama and your grandmama cooked you some strip steaks, there was a notion, and there still is, the more red, the better. And so we don't want a whole bunch of white, and we know better. Fat is flavor. Okay. Even this big old plug of fat right here is going to incorporate flavor in the steak while it's cooking. But this steak, so that it doesn't get real tough, this needs fast, high heat cooking. A grill, a char grill that is cranked all the way up. A broiler that's high heat. Develop the Maillard reaction on the outside and eat medium rare. You'll take it off the heat, right on the edge of rare, and let it rest. Flavorful, the juices inside, resting is important, but this needs to be cooked fast, high heat.
Okay.
Iron skillet, super, smoking white hot. April, is it you? You have an iron skillet like a grill. You've got the griddle skillet that I made
Yeah,
from Food 2 when we did the grilling week.
uh-huh.
That's perfect for this. Just get it as hot as your house can handle. Um, you know, depending on how clean your iron skillet is, it's going to smoke. And so hopefully you have a good hood, or open up the doors and windows, let it smoke till it quits smoking, and then it's going to smoke again when you put these steaks on it. Don't crowd your pan. Crowd your pan, and it's going to steam itself instead of sear. But that's basically what you're doing. You want to sear it. Make sense?
Yes.
We're going to come back to these. We're going to come back to these strip steaks here. Because I'm going to show you what a porterhouse and a T-bone is. And maybe when we're done with today, none of us will eat strip steaks anymore. We'll all run to the porterhouse and the T-bone. Any of y'all like porterhouse, T-bone? Either one
Yes.
have a favorite? What's your favorite steak?
Well,
Ribeye.
my favorite steaks are ribeye.
Mine too.
Brenda's a ribeye.
Yeah. I can't cook a T-bone. I just can't get it right all over.
Is it the bone?
It's that tenderloin piece. I mean, that, because a T-bone is a New York strip and a tenderloin, correct?
Yes. So is a porterhouse.
I always overcook the tenderloin part, trying to get the other part done.
What do you mean by done, Brenda?
Cook,
I'm
finish to the
making you tell on yourself.
I know.
Medium well done.
I'm a medium. I'm medium.
Okay. The hard part is when you've got the two, so T-bone. T-bone is going to be the tenderloin tip, which I'm about to show you. Porterhouse is going to be the filet mignon, the center cut of the tenderloin. And both of those are really the strip loin. We can get, depending on how big the tenderloin is, we can get sections of porterhouse that's mixed in with the ribeye. But I'll show you whenever we break down this tenderloin. Obviously, the marbling in the strip loin versus the lack of marbling in the filet, they do cook a little bit different. So if you acquire a taste for a medium strip loin but a medium rare filet, then I say cook your T-bone, cook your porterhouse to the doneness of the largest muscle. Essentially, they're both the same steak. The T-bone has a different bone. It's a little more forward. So the bone kind of forms that funky looking T. The porterhouse is a little further back in the cow, and that top of the T is gone, and it is just the center bone. The inside of the skeleton, the inside of the cavity, is where the tenderloin is. And so it's the backside of those rib bones with strip loin or the ribeye on the outside of those ribs. Let me get a tenderloin. All right. Now, I, especially with butchery, and especially with beef, I'm a proponent of zero waste. Okay. And so I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I'm doing this just with a paring knife. Now, in Chef McAfee's meat and seafood class and Chef Thompson's meat and seafood class, they may show you with your boning knife. They may show you doing this with your chef knife. I do a lot just with my paring knife. What I'm doing right now is removing, it's on one side of your tenderloin, and we call it the chain. I'm going to show you what the chain is made of, but I have one other tenderloin, so I'm going to show you this again in a minute and maybe slow it down. I'm using my index finger or my thumb to open up where I'm cutting. And I'm looking for these areas where you can see, it's almost like spider web. You can see the two different muscle structures. And when I pull this away, as I pull away that little webbing that happens, can you see that?
It kind of separates.
It kind of separates. That tells me I just score it very gently with my knife. So that's telling me to cut. Okay. This is the chain, and that's what we call it, you know, like chains to pull your car or something like that. Way up here, there's another muscle that's separate. It's connected, but it pulls away also. We call this the heel. This is the heel of the tenderloin. Now, with this one, I'm going to show you a lot of chefs. This is not standard butchery, but they just open it up enough to get to the tendon. Let's see if we can get up here. If you can see this well enough, can you see the lines? I think my
Yes.
is kind of trying to focus in and out. When you see those lines, that is tendon. This is the silver skin. Okay. Here, let me do this. I got to wash my hands for a second. Okay. Now, let me see if you'll be able to see this better. I think so.
Hello.
Did that grow? It grew, didn't it? Did that blow bigger
Yes.
on your screen? All right. So now I'll dirty my hands again. Now we can see better as soon as that. These lines run in here. This is tendon versus this, you know, kind of clay-like stuff that doesn't have any lines in it, which is fat. Okay. The fat is okay to stay. Most of the time we take it off just because that's part of cleaning the tenderloin. Kind of like poking a needle. I'm going to go carefully right underneath the surface, right underneath all of that tendon material, and take a little bit off. Now, we want to be careful, at least the way I do this. I'm kind of cutting in towards my wrist, and so you want to be careful. I'm going to angle my knife up just a little bit Did we talk about this the other day with pork tenderloin?
Yes, chef.
I think I'm angling up just a little bit. So I don't want to angle down at all, or I'm going to cut into the fillet. I want to shave off, basically. I want to take off the section of tendon. And when I get back here, this is what I want to see. Very little meat. This I can still keep and be very and use it. So this isn't necessarily trash. I'll tell you with what here in a minute, but I want to go through and take all of that tendon material away. I want you to know that what we're doing this week, cleaning a tenderloin, is pretty much a basic skill for a lot of employers when you're going to apply for an executive chef job. Many employers are going to ask you to, they'll just say, here's a beef tenderloin, clean it. And cleaning is going to mean what I'm showing you right now. And if you know how to do this, that's huge money savings. To buy already prepared, already butchered filet mignon is, I mean, this is pretty much a pretty expensive cut of meat anyway. I'm keeping this heel on, keeping this heel attached, and just carefully cutting out the remaining piece of tendon. I want to keep as much meat attached as possible. Now, right between the center of the fillet, the center of the tenderloin, and the heel, can you tell where I have the main portion of the tenderloin and this separate muscle? Can you tell?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the heel. Okay.
Chef, in the video, was he calling that a heel or a head? Because I
So-
called it a head.
I think he called it a head. I usually at the culinary school we call it a heel. I've always called it the knuckle, and this is one of those things that you'll get used to the terminology of whatever chef you're working for or working with. Since when you go to Food 3 next semester, Food 3 and then on to Food 4, I think it's wise for to use the terminology that you're going to hear in other classes and other parts of the culinary school, and most refer to this as the heel. Heel is correct, head is correct, knuckle is what I've always used. I don't know if it's correct in the industry, but part of what I want to show you, there's a large plug of fat right here at the, so to use video terminology, at the head of the head, there's this big plug of fat, and I'm cutting that out. Okay. Little bit of cleanup right down here. With some of this surface fat, there's just fascia. There's this tissue that separates muscles from other muscles. So we kind of want to clean that up just a little bit. Or like this, there's fat that just is not really connected nice and clean to anything. So I want to cut that out. For me, I can move a lot quicker with a paring knife. One of the things we try to teach you, though, is using the correct tool. And I think most of my colleagues probably laugh at me for using a paring knife, but Y'all know I break down whole chicken with paring knife, and everybody thought that was goofy until they seen me do it.
I like doing it with paring knife because I feel like I have better control.
I know. So do I. So here's one of the things I wanted to show you with this one right here, and that is keeping the heel or head or knuckle connected to the body of the tenderloin. Then whenever I cut out my steaks, okay, so first of all, I'm going to cut off the section right on the back, the tip, and I'm going to leave this for something else here in a minute, okay? Here goes. That's a monster fillet, but you can see the two muscles, but they're connected to one, connected together, so we can treat this like one, right?
That's pretty.
Now just look at that. In the palm of my hand, I've got about 10 ounces or so. This is a good, probably 2 inches. Charge $50 for that.
Sear both sides and eat it.
Is that the size you want us to cut them? About 2 inches?
I think, especially for high end, which is the kind of food that we're trying to do, you know, that we're learning in culinary school, I think we need to be in the ballpark of 1.5 to 2 inches. And at the end of the day, it's really less about the number of inches. It's more about the weight. And so I've got two really, this is a little closer to 10. It was the very, very end. This is 10 to 12 ounce fillets. That's big. Standard is going to be something around 1.5 inches. And what I just cut, where I'm cutting at right now, this is the filet mignon. I get two sections here. See, I do have a little bit of marbling. These are about 8 ounces. And that is that's going to be your standard filet. So if y'all cut about 1.5 inches, about 8 ounces, then that's what you're going to cut whenever you clean these, when you do this for other meals. The whole center cut area, do you see where it's round, 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 round? And right about here, all of a sudden it kind of dips, it shrinks, and it starts to taper down to almost nothing.
Yes.
Okay. I cut all that tail off. We'll call that the tail. This whole piece, this is what we call the Chateaubriand. The Chateaubriand is a dish, but it's also a cut of the beef tenderloin. And it's the center where the filet mignons come from. That if I keep it whole and cook it, sear it, roast it in the oven like a roast beef, probably tie it off to make it really, really consistent all the way through. That's Chateaubriand. Did you know that?
Nope.
So the very tip of the head, the very tip of the tail, there's a number of things we can still do with this. Okay. When we cut these into like little bite-sized pieces, maybe cubes, they're called tornettos. And we can use that in other dishes. A very quick, so if I wanted to make beef stroganoff is typically made from very tough meat. You could do beef stroganoff from the eye of round that we did last week. You could do stroganoff from stew meat, which is usually coming from the bottom round or the inside round, maybe the top round. Those things that are usually turned into ground beef, And they slow cook. You braise it, and it'll tenderize over time while it cooks. You could do a quick stovetop stroganoff with these tornadoes. And the tornadoes would be after I cut this into other pieces. I actually got, this was a tenderloin I picked up from Sam's, just kind of for show and tell. But give me a second here. I'm going to bring one more, which is what we got from the school. My cutting board's too small. Before I do anything with it, see the heel or the head or the knuckle right up here?
Yes, chef.
Yeah.
The chain is always on the other side.
Oh, okay.
Always on the other side. So you can use your fingers, start at the top of the tenderloin and kind of pull your way down, and you'll reach the chain and your fingers will find a place. You just poke right in. And at first I can just separate with my fingers. I haven't cut anything yet. When I reach the point where I can't anymore, this one has a lot of tissue up here on the top. Very carefully, you don't want to do this too fast until you really get good with the particular feel, because if you're not careful, you're going to end up cutting a tissue and you're going to cut right down into your thumb or finger. So just be mindful of that. Be very careful. If your knife is really good and sharp, you can just score very gently where all those, can you see what I'm doing? You see,
Yes, chef.
starts to get that little spider web look, and then I just score right there. I'm not pushing at all.
Chef,
Is
you're
that
actually
Brenda?
you're actually just pushing that apart, aren't you?
I am. I'm just pulling this apart. I'm using as little of my knife as possible. I'm not cutting anything yet. Pulling and scoring where I see, I call it a spider web kind of look. That's where I know fat, tendon, all these little tissues that hold muscle structures together, but also separate the two muscle structures. I need to give that with a really sharp knife. I need to give that just a little help. And so I just score right there.
What do you do with the chain?
I'm going to show you that here in just a second.
Okay.
Now, when I get down here, I've got the head or the heel on one side, and I call it the meaty part of the chain right underneath it. And there's a section of muscle that runs right underneath here. So I find where kind of these the tendon lines, the fat lines kind of end, and I go ahead and make a decision and make a dedicated cut to remove the rest of that chain. That's the only part that I really physically cut. Now we'll come back to the chain in a minute. Let's come back over here to the head. And this time, I want to completely pull it off. So what I'm showing you here, I have two different tenderloins because I wanted to show you two different ways, especially to handle this muscle right here. Okay. When I break these down and cut them into individual steaks, you really can't tell or taste the difference between a true filet mignon which comes out of this middle section, or I'll get 2 fillets, quote unquote fillets, out of the heel. And Restaurant 101, I want to get as much yield as possible, right?
Yes, chef.
As yield in this case means as much usable meat, because everything that goes to waste, the tenderloins y'all picked up are about 7-pound average. After all of the tendon removal, fat and tissue removal, and the chain removal, a 5-pound tenderloin, you end up with about 3 to 3.5 pounds of usable product. Well, if I take this head away and actually don't use it, then there's another pound gone. You paid right now anywhere from 11.5 to about $15 a pound. 7 pounds. How much is that? Somebody have a calculator nearby? Let's say this is $13 a pound and you bought 7 pounds. What does it cost? Get your calculator.
$91.
91?
Yeah, I'm doing that in my head, but yeah, $91.
That sounds fair, because the one I got from Sam's, that's about what I paid for it. They had, I think $85 was the cheapest for one tenderloin. $99, $97 was about the most expensive they had for a tenderloin. And so 91 sounds about fair. So let's say I'm just going to use true proper filet mignon. I'm going to get maybe 4. I could stretch it a little bit. I'm going to get 5 fillets out of this whole tenderloin. So what's $90 divided by 5?
$18.
Okay. So now I'm going to be very careful about the trimming. And I'm going to make sure I'm at about 8 ounces. And I'm going to get about 6 out of here. And I'm going to get 2 out of here. So now I have, okay, with 5 filet out of 1 tenderloin, and that's all my yield, $18 is my food cost, right?
Yes.
$18 times 3.
54.
54. Just for the beef portion of my entree, I need to be sure that I'm charging at least $54 to make it worth my while. If I only get 5 fillets out of the whole tender, okay? Now let's say this $90 divided by 8 fillets.
It's $11.25.
Multiply that times 3.
$33.75.
Would you rather pay $54 or would you rather pay $33 for your filet dinner?
33.
33 for sure.
See the power of yield?
Yes.
Yeah.
What we don't think about is, here's the mistake that people make in restaurant pricing. Are you ready for this? Y'all listen to Chef. Chef is wise. Here's the mistake people make. Okay, we're at $90 for, let's say, 7 pounds. Okay. Do one of you have a calculator, or y'all just really good at doing the math in your head?
I'm using a calculator.
I just pulled mine out.
Okay, that's good, because we need to do a little kitchen math anyway. So here's the mistake, and it's a critical mistake that will cost you your restaurant in the future. How many ounces are in a pound?
16.
16.
16 ounces times 7 pounds.
112.
Okay, so we have 112 ounces here, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We paid $90 for this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
$90 divided by 112.
I know that's not right.
What is it?
Let me do it again.
That would like $1.24.
Or 80 cent. 0.80. It's what I got.
That would be about right. 90 divided by 112.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what, about 80 cents?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
An ounce? Is that an ounce?
Yeah, 80 cents per ounce. We're cutting the fillets that we're going to serve in about 8-ounce portions. So 80 cents times 8.
$6.42.
Okay. And our standard, just off the top of our head, quick pricing, we want a 33% food cost or better. So that's why I say we're just going to take the food cost times 3. So what did you say that was? $6
$6.42. Say
times
650.
times 3.
$19.28.
Now that sounds really good, doesn't it?
For what?
For your filet dinner.
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
That doesn't take into account any at all the stuff that we're taking out, your actual yield. So you're pricing the fat, you're pricing the silver skin, and that mistake, you're actually undercutting yourself. You're not making any money at all. You're giving the filet away.
Uh-huh.
That make sense?
So you need to price only what you are going to eat.
You got to price what you're going to eat, but you do take into account the total price.
Yes.
For. That respects what you're throwing away.
What is that you're cutting off now?
So remember that one plug of fat that's
Right.
the body of the tenderloin and the heel. I cut the heel off, but I don't want that great big giant plug of fat. So I need to get rid of that.
Is that what was between, that's where the heel was? Okay.
That was connected right here. So on the
Okay.
last tenderloin, we kind of reached in and cut into that. This time I took the heel off, leaving this connected to the tenderloin. I just cut that part out. And we still have, this one had a lot of this top tissue. And so we want to trim that off as well, just because.
Now there's nothing you can do with that, is it?
Well, yes.
Oh,
Remember, I said I'm a proponent of use everything that you can. We're going to try to not waste anything, even the tendon material.
that just looks so nasty.
What, the tendon
With that you just cut off,
that I just cut off? Yeah. Guess what?
you gonna feed it to the dog?
No, it's going to make great flavor in your home ground beef.
Oh,
So knowing that we were doing this and there's going to be a little trim off of here, a little trim off of the strip. When I bought my tenderloin from Sam's, we also got a piece of, it's the brisket flap. So Walmart, you can buy the whole giant brisket, but there's a flap on the top of the brisket. There's a big plug of fat that separates the main brisket muscle, and then there's a smaller muscle structure at the top of the brisket. If y'all played with brisket enough to kind of know what I'm talking about, you can, you can buy just that flap all by itself. And if there's only 2 or 3 of you in your house and you're doing a little barbecue, that's good. That's plenty. You don't need this whole giant brisket. We buy the brisket flap from time to time. Well, that brisket flap's going to grind. That's going to make some really, really great ground beef with a little tenderloin trimmings, New York strip fat. I saved the fat from the ribeye trimmings from last week, put that in the freezer. It's still thawing. I would have ground right here, just kind of show you grinding, but all that fat's still frozen. And so I won't do it. But here, go to the head. I'm going to take just a little trim of these little corners, these little edges. And I can add this to my tornadoes. Cut this down in half. And I've got, sometimes on a restaurant menu, they're going to say, it's this price for an 8-ounce filet. Well, it's this price for a 6-ounce filet. I've got 2 little 6-ounce fillets of that head. Clear as mud.
Are those called petite fillets?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, because I've seen petite fillets on some menus, and I really didn't know what that was.
That's probably it. The petite fillet could also be, so right about here where the fillet starts to taper, and this is the heel or the head side, here where it starts to taper, okay, this is the tail. If I cut back just a little bit, I can get 1 or 2 more fillets out of this. And just like the heel piece, this would also be a petite fillet. So instead of a Chateaubriand roast, we're just cutting out fillets. Don't y'all hate this class?
It's the worst, I tell you.
I love it.
Well,
Now,
it's because
the
it's
tail on the tip of, both ends of it, can those also be used for shish kebabs and put them with the vegetable and they all cook at the same time?
They really, Brenda, that's a good observation, because this is a quick cooking meat, and it's a muscle structure that doesn't move a lot. The more a muscle moves, so the butt side, the hind end of the cow, that's where you have top round, inside round, bottom round, the eye of round. Those are muscles that are always moving because the cow's always walking, right? The more movement of a muscle there is, the longer the muscle fibers are. And so it's a tougher meat, and it's going to it needs to cook low and slow. Well, what makes stew meat is that kind of muscle structure. And sometimes that's the meat we go to, even without thinking. That's the meat we go to for a shish kebab. And there's really tough. Or we use a cheap steak, a round steak, a chuck steak. And those they're kind of tough. For you to do a kebab, you know, with sections of this right here, oh, you're going to be everybody's hero because it's going to be tender. It cooks quick. It's certainly going to cook. It'll be flavored by the other vegetables, the things that you have on the skewer, and is going to be really, really nice. Really nice. So if you're going to do that, y'all have my phone. Give me a call. Ha ha. Not even okay. Ariel just threw in a little courtesy laugh. That's disappointing. I'm losing my touch or something. All right, let's go to the chain. We're going to end up here with this. Okay. The chain is really divided into sections as well. I'm going back to my paring knife. And some old school chefs are going to refer this section of the chain that I'm holding on right here is the section of chain that was up at the top where the heel, the knuckle, the head of the tenderloin is. Okay. That's this that I'm holding on with this hand right here. This is the section that is underneath the tenderloin. Okay. All right here is just muscle. From here to here, the rest of this chain is riddled with more tendon than fat. There's lots of little tendon fibers that run all through this. And so it's difficult to use. It is super time consuming. Okay, doing what I'm doing right here. Can you see? I'm just using the tip of my paring knife that's super sharp. And just as I've done with the chain, exactly where the fat lines meet the muscle, okay, I'm pulling the muscle back and I do a lot more pulling and pushing with my fingers, the tops of my fingers. I'll pull back. All I'm doing is cutting away. There's a big piece of tendon and a bunch of fat. And I want to pull the muscle away from that. And sometimes we call this the chef's cut because this is not a piece. It's not clean. Clean in that it's a nice, pretty round piece of meat, piece of filet, but it's the same muscle as filet. I'm gonna put some salt and pepper on this, throw it on the grill, and I'm gonna make a quick meal out of the chef's cut. This can also be used though. You can cut this down into little chunks wherever you might want to use tornadoes. You can cut this into those little chunks and make a quick stovetop stroganoff or beef tips with egg noodles. I like to do that at home every once in a while, and I'll use this meat to do it. If I collect a bunch, you know, the price of beef tenderloin, it's not like we do this every day in the Hall House. Maybe a chef, but I'm also a teacher, and I don't know what y'all think or know about teachers, but we don't make no money. And so can't afford this all the time. But anytime we trim these down, if I can collect these pieces, I'll throw them in the freezer and I'll put them maybe 2 or 3 sections together, braise this and slow cook this down with some garlic, some onion, a little cumin, a little Corona, a little bit of lime, and use that for the braise, then shred it, make that the filling for homemade tamales, make that the meat filling for some street tacos. Yum, yum, yummy.
Oh yeah.
Sweet,
Chef,
yes.
is that piece darker? It looks darker in color than the rest.
It is a little bit darker. That's also going to be dependent on the cow. And so, you know, It's also going to be dependent on the slaughter of that particular cow, how well it was bled. So, the stuff that we're seeing on top of my board is not blood. The cow's been bled. Most of these are slaughtered and they're hung upside down for anywhere from 1 to 3 days, from 24 to 72 hours. But in the organ and muscle fibers, the myoglobin of the blood remains. And so this is myoglobin and water. Okay. Depending on how much of that remains in the muscle fiber, this will be darker. Maybe the muscle structure might feel a little bit looser, but when this cooks, this and this have absolutely no difference at all whatsoever. It's not like the breast meat of a chicken and the thigh of a chicken. Not
Oh, okay.
like that at all, even though
Okay.
it looks like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Now, I worked with a sous chef from when I was the executive chef at UCA. My sous chef was from Mexico. And when we did large events and we did filet for those events, he always asked for the chain. And since we basically threw these away, I gave him the chains. He took them home. I asked him once what he did with these. And he braised these just like they were. And when you slow cook this, you don't break down the tendon. Remember that tendon, the silver skin, that does not break down. It doesn't shrink. It doesn't render, but the fat does. All the fat separates away. And when you do this enough, the heat doesn't really affect your fingers so much. You kill your nerves. And what I just described, doing this for tacos, doing this for maybe for tamales, wonderful for beef tamales. He would cook this whole thing. And then after it's cooked, just with his hands, he would be able to easily pull out the meat. That is true zero waste. If you want to do that, knock yourself out. Go ahead. There's a lot of, let me just cut this right here in the middle. Well, this actually, so that was dumb. This looks like it's got a lot of, there may be a good section of meat going right through the middle. Most of the time you don't get good sections of meat. Or see what's happening right here. You get into the tendon and then you got another section of tendon that goes right down here and you try to pull that out. And as you cut that back, you've got another section of tendon down here, and then you've got another section of tendon over here. You see what's happening?
Yes.
It's very labor intensive to get this section of meat out. And I've never tried to do what Noe, was his name, Noe Gomez. I've never tried to do what she does myself. I don't consider myself a lazy person, not a lazy chef at all, but most of the time this is so much work. I do draw the line just a little bit on how much work it takes for little bits of reward. Okay. See how I've cut this just like that, the top of the chain. I've cut this all the way back. But look, I've got more tendon that's running right down in here. So when I start trimming this stuff away, I start chopping up all this meat. And before you know it, I've cut all these little bitty tendon pieces out. And I don't have really any meat left. And so, I don't know, maybe he takes a whole Saturday and cleans the other sections of the chain, or I do know he would cook the chains whole and just shred by hand. it looked like I had so much meat, but as I'm trimming this away, it's deceptive. That's usually the case. So might be beneficial to trim away what you can. But the amount of meat that's in here, even with tendon material, put this in a meat grinder and turn this into, or add this to your ground beef, which is what I plan to do. This chain, I'm going to take the, again, what we call the chef's cut. I'm going to take that off later. And that's going to go in my ground beef. I've weighed out the amount of brisket and the amount of trim and all of that stuff that I'm going to use in my ground beef, so that I have roughly, I don't want any more fat than 30-70. I like, 25-75 or 80-20, somewhere in there. What do y'all think?
So in ground beef, those tendons are edible
The tendon,
and won't cause a texture issue?
so depends on your grind. If you do a really fine grind, okay, and what's going to determine your grind, I'm going to change the cameras now. What's going to determine your grind are most of your meat grinders are going to come with anywhere from 3 to 5 little dies, and they've got little holes on the end. And so those holes, that's where the meat is going through an auger, and there's a wheel. It almost looks like a Chinese, Japanese throwing star. And it's spinning, that's cutting the meat really, really fine, the fat, tendon, whatever, but then it's extruded, it's pushed through those die. The smaller the holes, the smaller the grind, the less you're going to experience any of those kind of chewy bits from a tendon, because it's being ground so teeny tiny. You're not experiencing this whole tendon, which is going to be chewy and not have a pleasant mouthfeel. Make sense?
Yep.
Yes, chef.
Thanks.
Okay. What else you want to know?
So what all do you want to send us for our pictures that we're sending you?
So it says, really, I think do something with the beef tenderloin and do something with the strip. So if you show me a picture that has 2 strip steaks that are cut evenly, there's your challenge. So if you want 1 inch thick, 1.5 inch thick, be in that for those, be in the kind of 1/2 inch. That's really kind of thin, like almost like a breakfast steak, to about 1 inch. That's a pretty good steakhouse cut of meat. Do that. I'd like to see one other picture where you have pulled the chain, where you have removed the tendon, the silver skin on the top, and then cut something, break it up into pieces. If you keep the body and the heel connected, you want larger filet, larger steaks out of that. You give me filet mignon, you give me some little diced tornadoes, just something that shows 2 or 3 different cuts out of the one beef tenderloin. Chain in a pile, silver skin, little tendon in a little pile, and then at least 2 different sections of the tenderloin cut into something. Terrence, yes, good question. Here's why you got a duck. That's right. Y'all haven't heard this yet. The meeting, the in-person classes did whenever they got the duck this week. what was it, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? You ended up with a chicken and squab, and
Yes.
you're supposed to have squab and a duck. And all I had you submit with the lab was a picture of the squab. And everybody did, and that was good and wonderful and fine, and that was great. But I hope I told you. If I didn't, surprise. We wanted you to have that experience. Breaking down a duck, fabricating the duck is exactly the same as fabricating the chicken. 4-piece, 2-piece, 6-piece, 8-piece. If you keep the leg and thigh quarter together, or if you separate legs from thighs, that's pretty traditional. The one caveat with duck is don't get rid of skin, and especially don't get rid of fat. For now, if you want to cut pieces and then put it in your freezer, I want you to have the experience. I'll tell you what, the same way that we have cut chicken and submitted a picture with your 6 or 8 way chicken, now y'all know me, and I think y'all love me to death because I'm wonderful and great, but I need reminders from time to time. If you will email me one picture of your fabricated duck, the same way we break down a chicken. It's up to you if you keep the leg and thigh together, but I want to see the wings separate. We don't do airline duck breasts. 2 duck breasts, 2 wings, and then leg and thigh quarter or separated leg and thigh. The carcass, send me a picture, 25 bonus points. When you send me the picture, somebody in the body of your email, send it by email. Send me a little reminder that says, Chef, you told us to do this for 25 extra points.
We still had a spot on that week to submit the duck in the lab. Because we didn't do you had one for the duck and one for the squab, I thought.
Really? I thought it was just it was one place you could submit 2 pictures, but since that assignment is already graded, there's not a separate assignment in Blackboard for duck and a separate assignment for the squab.
Okay.
So just email me a picture and with the reminder, Chef, this is for my 25 bonus points.
Okay.
Because
I've already vacuum sealed my duck and put it in the freezer. So
look, listen, Linda, listen, no pow, listen, Linda. I don't think any of y'all people's gonna need the extra credit anyway. So this is a psychological thing. I would like to see you break it down. If you've already vacuum sealed it and put it in the freezer, then, no harm, no foul. Leave it there in the freezer. Maybe you want it for the holidays. I'm not putting a due date on this. So Brenda and everybody else, if you need 25 bonus points as we get later on in the semester, y'all remember, I'll forget, but you're going to have to remind me that because I'll remember whenever you remind me. See how that works?
Well, all right.
I need 25 points. So I want my 25 points now. And if it's in November, okay, fine.
Yeah, because I already put on that Thanksgiving dressing.
See, there you go. So Brenda, you can wait and collect your extra credit. But look, I think most all of y'all, did y'all do the pre-course survey for my doctorate? That was 50 points. Look,
yeah.
Y'all are going to get another 50 points at the end of the semester for a post-course survey. There's another 50 points. And so, I mean, that's plenty. that's going to just about ensure that even if you, I don't know, with this class, there's not that many assignments and it's more fun stuff to do anyway. I can't see how anybody's going to get lower than an A. But now y'all could surprise me, and I could see Ariel just deciding, oh, I love this food. I don't care about my grade anymore. And then December 1st is going to come. Oh no, I need to work on my grade. I'm kidding a little bit. I don't think the place is there for you to go back and go to that week and submit duck fabrication. Since we went forward and I've already assigned grades based on your squab, which was the full 40-point credit, then I think this is the way to go. And I'll give you extra credit if you do it, whenever you do it in the semester. If y'all want to, because Brenda, this is just a private discussion between me and you.
Okay.
I actually did the same thing. My duck's in the freezer for Thanksgiving, maybe even Christmas. I don't know. We're going to be out of town that week. And so we're flying back on Thanksgiving. Might be nice to have the duck already here and we don't have to scramble on Black Friday. And I'm not going to go shopping on a day like that. Blah, blah, blah. So you're among friends.
Thank you.
Terrence, did that answer your question? I got to open up the chat stuff. I forgot that. Okay, there you go. What else? Any other questions? Complaints?
Well, Chef, you kind of gave me a little assignment about the Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah.
Most people use the center cut chop.
Okay.
It's what's primarily used for it, but you can use the rib. Some people do use the rib. No one ever used the tip part.
Okay.
I think I'd like to use the tip part. It's dark.
It's darker and a little flavorful.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you get your pink pineapple?
So was that from you?
Yes.
I love you to death. Thank you so much. So you left one for the purchasing ladies.
Yes, and I left one for you.
I'm very grateful, but I gave it to the other purchasing lady so Jen could take one. And well, let me tell you, I'm going to tell you why. I have, every body is different. And with my diabetes, I know that I'm very sarcastic with all of you. And whenever I talk about having the sugars and stuff like that, and there are a couple of areas where I don't respect my diabetes very well, but most of the time I really do. And I try to take care of myself. I'm going to be a grandpa and I want to be around as a grandpa for at least a minute. And
I understand.
I can't eat citrus. I love orange and orange juice. I love pineapple, and that sends my blood sugar through the roof. And the first of this year, my doctor tried a drug that I'll say reacted to. The drug didn't work at all. In fact, it went the other direction. And it's too much information, but
I respect that. I'm allergic to pineapple. I can't even eat it. Yeah, I'm allergic to it. I can't even eat it, but my husband loves it. So
I love it as well, but it doesn't love me.
No, me neither.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
But so Jen loves it, and Regina was seeing a doctor today. I won't get into her business, but she might be getting some new knees, and so she has hers still at the culinary school. cold in the catering cooler. Now that I mentioned that, somebody's going to go, one of y'all is going to go to the catering cooler and find this delicious pink pineapple sitting right there, and you're going to take it home. And then Regina's going to cry. And I'm going to say it's her fault because she didn't take it, nanny, nanny, boo boo, and stuff like that. And I shouldn't have said that because this is recorded. And so I'm going to lose my job. I don't know.
Well, just so you know, I did do some research on the pink pineapple, and they reduced the acid, the bromelain, which inhibited the beta carotene, which causes things to be yellow, but it heightened the lycopene, which makes things pink, like tomatoes and watermelon and stuff. So that's why it's pink.
So it's a pineapple that is also, we'll use air quotes and say it's high in lycopene.
And low in acid, low in enzyme, but it still burnt me.
Okay.
I can't do bromelain.
That's what you're allergic to?
That's what I'm allergic to.
Hey, since we're talking about everybody's medical issues, who else is allergic to anything? I'm kidding. It's one of the things I like about teaching. We hang out semester after semester, and we all get to know each other pretty well, and that kind of makes school fun. Anybody have anything else for tonight?
No.
No.
Good luck with your fillets. To use Gordon Ramsay language, your fillets of beef.
Okay.
If y'all want to save your duck and break it down later, you especially are going to have to remind me that this is for extra. But show me a couple of strip steaks and show me your tenderloin fabricated some way, and we'll be good to go. I'm always available via text and email and nighty night to one and all.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Enjoy
Good
the beach.
night.
Bye.
Bye.